Hi, it's Sabbatical recording day number. I'm going to take these off. 66, I believe. And if it's not, then it's not. I am sitting here. It's a little chilly today. But per usual, got up, did what I had to do, enforced, not enforce, but forced my writing. Yep, that's where we're at. That's where we're at. So there's this thing for anybody that cares in academia, or if you're going for your PhD and you're writing a dissertation, there's a book. I don't know exactly what it's called. Basically, it's Sabbatical in 15 minutes or something as such. But basically, for any of us who do this and love being in the flow process, but sometimes you got to kickstart that flow process, and sometimes you just have to sit down, put your, I'm going to say the Patsy Bovary, you sit down in the chair, you buckle up, and you buckle in, and you go. And in your mind, you have it that you're going to write for 15 minutes. So you write for 15 minutes, whatever that looks like. And today it may look a little different. So this is how it goes for me, because it'll probably change. And boy, if you talked to me 10 years ago, it would be really different. So today I sit down and, I've got to clear out everything. I'm a 50 tabs open girl on Google, and so you got to clear those out, get out of everything except for what you're working. And I don't work in Word anymore. I only work in Google Docs. And so for 15 minutes, just write for 15 minutes. And this is how it goes. I personally am writing off of a detailed outline. And I started that maybe September, October, definitely before October 1st. And so it's basically filling in that detailed outline. And then I'm going back and rereading it. And I also am using AI. I'm using chat. I've gone back to, I indicated this earlier in Chat GPT, just because I'm training the LLM of how I'm writing and what I need to do. And it's almost, it's a brainstorming way. So I write physically. I'm typing in my Google Doc, and today I was talking about andragogy. Andragogy is at the middle of the model. And if you don't know what andragogy is, I'm sure you've heard of pedagogy. Pedagogy is based on the model for teaching children. So if you're teaching children, that's wonderful. However, in higher education, and especially if we align it in higher education to hospitality, and then the outcome of people getting degrees, whatever those degrees are, undergraduate or graduate degrees, and graduate degrees at the master's and PhD level, we would consider those people adults. You with me? So you do have traditional, if you go to a traditional higher education, you do have traditional, probably that falls still in the pedagogy. However, it's a Malcolm Knowles, and I believe the site is from it's seminal, from 1980. I'll include it in my book. However, andragogy really aligned with me as a graduate student for my first master's, for my second master's, and then for my PhD, because I was adult and I was in the industry. In addition to that, today, many of our graduate students are adults. They may have moved out of a traditional higher education 4-year degree into a master's level, but I would consider you an adult. And so that's at the base of the model. I don't see anybody else doing it. And again, probably somebody else is doing it, just not realizing. And andragogy is Um, it's self-directed. And so that's what, and I'm laughing because I'm going to tell you a story about this. Um, is so that's where I was at this morning. I forced it and I wrote, grab it, and I put it into a couple of GPTs, writing GPTs, my regular GPT, Perplexity, and then I bring in some research articles and tell it, take a look at that. Is that aligning? And then out it comes. I take that, I put it back, and I rewrite into my own words what I'm seeing. So, if you will, it is like that personal assistant or personal researcher or grad assistant or whatever you want to call it. It just helps me. The information that I have is still super important. And if you get, the AI is not going to overtake what I'm saying because we're going to apply it. And that's my role as a human being. At least I feel that way right now. Who knows? Who knows? I may feel differently. But let me tell you a little story if you're in for it. Because, I goof on myself about saying amazing too much or marvelous or whatever, and I need a word of the day, and I probably do. Probably just need to go in to my personal assistant and say, hey, pop up a positive word of the day. Andragogy. Andragogy was hard for me to say. My mind, you can hear me say certain words, and I catch myself, and that goes way back, and I have no idea. I have no idea why. For instance, back in my day, I wanted to be a stewardess. It wasn't a flight attendant, it was a Barbie. I had the Barbie plane and all of that. I wanted to be a stewardess, and I called it stewardess. My sister always focuses on Alameda, and there are Alameda streets, roads, courts everywhere, like in every town, and I call it Alameda. And once it's in my mind, I don't think that it's dyslexia. It's only certain words. So I have to look and think about it. So Andragogy, couldn't say it. And that was at the base of a lot of what I was studying when I was in grad school at University of New Mexico. And so my daughter was young, and of course reading is so important. And I would sit down, and there was a Dr. Flowerday is her name. I believe she's still there in educational psychology. She's I would say marvelous, amazing woman. But she said, it does not matter. The research shows as long as you're reading to your kid, it doesn't matter what you're reading. They're picking it up. And so she talked about how she would read out of her textbooks when she was getting her PhD to her little kids. Because for those of us with kids that are going through a PhD program, it gets pretty intense. And all you're doing is reading articles, you're listening to whatever books or textbooks or podcast or whatever you're doing to get that stuff in here. That's part of the rigor. And so with Lily, I would say, I would be reading, and I don't know what book. I mean, so many really good books. But I would throw in the word Andragogy all the time because I just wanted it to come right off my mouth, off of my tongue. And so that's really how it comes about, and it's quite funny. And you do things that you do, but always, it doesn't matter what you're reading. Just read to your kids or grandkids. That's the research shows is important. So anyhow, it's just kind of a funny story that I would pass along with Andragogy. But Andragogy versus pedagogy, I think, is really, really important to get out. And it's really, really important in this book to make sure that that's a base of it, as well as with the model. It's at the base, at the core, is the person, holistically, is the person. And then instructional systems design, again, theory based. That's at the base. And it's super, super important. And from there are the learning theories, and it kind of goes up now. It kind of goes up as a flower, if you will. And so that's where I'm at. I'm at talking about each level, and I'm writing a page or two on each one of them. It's the big why. It's the big why we do research. If you're a professor, why you do research, it's to keep adding on to the research and the literature. So that was my morning this morning, and that was a true sabbatical update because time is ticking, and I am going to get most of this done this week, and then I'm going to refine it over the next week or so, because we're bumping right up to December 1st, and I'm goal-oriented. By December 11th, I'll have it done. Don't mark my words, because I may say something where I shouldn't. Okay, that's it for me. Much love.